110, Section N82. Today I am going to discuss a topic that hits close to home with me, which is adoption. When I was born, my birth mother, Patty, decided to give me up for adoption so I could have a better life. When I was 5 months old, my parents brought me home from Catholic Social Services in Philadelphia on December 17, 1991, which we call My Adopter Day, which is celebrated every year. It was almost Christmas, and it was a nice time to come into my parents' lives. During a 6-month probationary period, a caseworker visited our home to check on our progress and how we were bonding as a family. After the 6-month period, we were able to start the adoption process through the court system in Bucks County. I was officially adopted on October 23, 1992. My birth mother, Patty, had me on July 12, 1991, when she was only 20 years old. Before I was born, my parents agreed to an open adoption, which for us meant an annual letter with pictures. My parents chose to update Patty each year around my birthday. They went through the entire year and gave Patty a yearly update of my milestones and progress and included pictures from that year. My parents began their adoption process May 10, 1988. The first year consisted of interviews, completing questionnaires, reading adoption books, along with other forms. On April 14, 1989, my parents received a letter confirming that they had been approved for adoption. I will go into further detail about open and closed adoption later in my speech. My adoption was considered an open adoption. However, every agency has its own rules and regulations. According to their website, Catholic Social Services traces its roots to colonial Philadelphia. The 10 agencies of Catholic Social Services administer programs dedicated to serving men, women, and children in need. They are an expression of the charitable works of the local churches in Philadelphia Archdiocese. Services include residential treatment programs for at-risk children, family preservation services, foster care, adoption immigration services, counseling, senior citizen centers, programming for the elderly, transitional housing, homeless services, and care for medically fragile men and women. They provide residential and community-based education programs to youth that have been sentenced by the court and sponsor community-based care for persons who are developmentally delayed. According to iHeart Adoption, at the Independent Adoption Center, open adoption involves choosing the family for your baby, sharing information, and agreeing to ongoing contact throughout the years. In an open adoption, your child grows up knowing where they came from, their medical history, and the decision to place them for adoption was made out of love. Although open adoption can vary depending on what kind of contact you want for your child and their birth parents. In my case, my parents agreed to annual letters and photos and maybe some gifts around the holidays. In an open adoption, the birth mother has the options to choose the adopted family for her baby, choose the amount of contact you want for the adopted family as well as your baby grows up, and choose who you want to support you at the hospital. Benefits of open adoption. How it benefits you as the birth mother. The selfless act of placing your child for adoption is a conscious decision to give your child the best life possible. Choosing open adoption enables you to take control of your situation. Moving forward, it is the ongoing open relationship that enables you to heal as you see that your child is loved and cared for. How it benefits you how it benefits your child as the adoptee. Open adoption provides answers to who do I look like and why was I given up? If your child knows who they are, It will be much easier for them to develop an identity and understand the reasons for being adopted. How it benefits the family you choose, the adopted parents. Meeting you and getting to know you before the birth helps them develop trust and understanding. Being selected by you makes them feel entitled to parent. And for that they are honored and humbled. Having ongoing contact over the years is reassuring for them because they can always contact you with questions regarding medical history and other things that may come up. Close adoption. According to adoption.org and closed adoptions, the future birth mother and prospective adopted parents will not be given the first or last name of the other party, nor will they ever meet. Birth parents have absolutely no say in who the adopted parents will be, and any negotiations will be mediated by a caseworker or attorney. Few adopters and birth mothers are comfortable with this process. The impersonal quality of closed adoption may lead to a birth mother changing her mind about the placement or may lead too many questions in the mind of the adopters. However, first-time parents may prefer a closed adoption because it isolates her from any involvement in the child's life after adoption. Adoption process. According to Catholic Social Services, during the time my parents went through the adoption process in the late 1980s, these are the steps my parents took. Step 1 was initial steps, which includes letter of request from the couple, application sent upon the received letter, the pastor's letter of recommendation, and the caseworker assigned as soon as possible after the paperwork has been sent in and completed. Step 2 is overview of the home study process, which consists of usually 3 in-office interviews and 1 home visit to your home. Initial office intake interview, which consists of background issues are discussed, medical reports are given for completion by their family physician, medical releases are signed to be sent by the caseworker to your fertility specialist, questionnaires for prospective adopters and autobiographies are to be completed, and books are given which must be read and will be discussed at the second interview. At the second intake interview, it's held in the office approximately 2 months after the initial interview, and books will be discussed along with adoption issues and any follow-up needed from the first meeting, and another book may be given in preparation for the third interview. At the third intake interview, the criminal and child abuse clearance forms are generally given at this time. At the home study visit, it's held at home in approximately 2 months after your previous interview. All family members who reside in the home must be present. Focus will be on the child you desire, preparation for becoming parents, and what occurs after approval. If you don't meet the adoption agency's financial requirements, you cannot adopt. Step 3 is decision. In approximately 2 months, the caseworker will notify you of approval by phone after case review. Your case then goes into the matching file, and the caseworker will explain the contact with the agency during this time. Later, following the arrival of the child, a state-regulated 6-month period of supervision follows. The caseworker can come out 3 times before adoption and up to 5 times after adoption, often without notice. You have forms to fill out asking about the baby's growth, health, religious upbringing, and they observe the interaction between the parents and the child. Approximately 2 months after your last visit, you will be informed to contact your attorney to begin the finalization paperwork. For the waiting period. The waiting period begins from the time the adopted parents apply for adoption up to the time they are notified, stating that a child has been matched for them. During the waiting period, the adopted parents go through a series of interviews and home visits. It is also during this time that the mandatory references provided are reviewed and contacted. In my parents' case, we had to provide 3 references that were contacted and questioned. Home visits were scheduled, and the house had to meet certain requirements for safety and room for accommodation. It was also during this waiting period my parents had to answer essay questions pertaining to parenting and family questions. They also had to provide a self-analysis including their qualifications and readiness to become parents. Reading assignments were also given, and certain books needed to be read before the adoption day arrived. The hardest part for my parents was the waiting, which in their case was close to 5 years. The adoption process can get very in-depth, especially depending on the type of adoption you choose to go with. So if you cannot conceive or know someone having trouble conceiving, there's always adoption.